Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Smash Through podcast. I'm your host, Heezy, and I'm joined by my co-host, The Witch Clang.
Hey, how's it going?
You changed your handle to make sure people weren't confused.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, especially being that Tweak was going to be there.
Yeah, but he always does, like, version X or whatever.
That's true. Yeah, multiple people were like, oh, I didn't know Tweak was here or whatever when I had made the handle before. And
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I just didn't want to deal with it.
So today we will be talking about Crown the Third, the first ever super major in Utah where we reside. Got to meet a ton of awesome people. It was a really fun and stacked event. We're excited to talk about it. Before we do that, the point of the show is to be always improving. We want to be getting better. Each and every month at Smash, taking our time to think about things that we can do to improve. Matt, I want to let you rip it off first. How did you improve at Smash over the last month?
I spent a lot more time in the lab than I had in the previous month, that's for sure. Some of it I was doing some stuff that definitely isn't like completely gameplay related, but it is like physical dexterity and timing related. So I think that was super helpful.
I don't know. Like, you're talking about like the footstool downers?
Yeah, but it was like a weird I found out that you can like go footstool down air, then run and turn around and do another footstool downer before they hit the ground, and then run and keep doing it. The most I ever got to was 4 in a row before I missed it.
Nice.
But yeah, it was fun at least. I think that's super important, honestly, to keep your lab stuff fun. So
yeah, one of the things I was trying to teach Maxwell, which we should add that to our show notes. One of the things that I was trying to teach Maxwell this week is like, hey, like you spend a lot of time in here, you should go get on FD and just like beat something up, and like not just fish for down airs and side B's Bowser, but actually like try to string some stuff together. And I think that it's going to help him a lot. So I agree that like finding ways to make it fun is important. For me, I played a lot more Smash this month. Really feel like from a understanding of different, I also was willing to play like harder matchups. Having Matt play characters that have been bugging me and trying to break through or smash through some of those hard moments has kind of been my focus. I made the decision to drop Greninja completely for the most part and really just focused on Wolf for a solid few weeks. And it's funny, other than the match that everybody got to see on coverage, which we'll talk about, I think that my Wolf has a lot of good stuff going for it from a like fundies level, but has a lot of work to do with the movement stuff, and we'll kind of talk about that when we get to pools. Let's get into housekeeping really quickly. I have decided, and talking to my wife, that the fourth Thursday will be the day that I jump in, open an arena for the listeners and the Heezy Game Media Discord. So stay tuned for that each month. And then we're still doing 1,000 sub giveaway. If you want to head on over to YouTube, as of the time of recording, I don't know if you saw, but Twitch is like killing itself, Matt.
yeah.
Yeah. They just announced that like a bunch of new rules for streamers about branding and about advertisements. So like you can't have static ads. You can't. Only 3% of your screen can be made up by branding. Like all kinds of really weird rules. And people are like,
what are static ads?
Like ads that are on the screen.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So like
basically they're just like saying that they can't have as much sponsorship as they're getting from outside sources.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. So, if you want to sub to us, head on over to YouTube, where, it might be the future of where Smash is anyway. And then Smash Through was featured, I was told, as asked, this happened for us this last month, to mention that Smash Through was featured on FeedSpot's Top 15 Smash Bros. Podcast, coming in at number 10, Matt Clang. Number 10. Nice. Number 10. We're number 10. We're moving on up. Coach's Corner was not listed, though, so it feels not true. let's get into the main topic, though. We are talking about Crown the Third. Before we get into like pools and stuff, what was your mindset going into this event, Matt?
Um, I don't know. I think I didn't really have strong expectations. I mean, honestly, I mostly expected just O2 drop. I was, there to have a good time, not necessarily to do well. But that being said, it's not in me to not practice for something, even if I don't expect to do well. So I definitely put in a good amount of practice prior to this.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, honestly, I really exceeded my expectations thoroughly. So,
And we'll get into that. For me, my expectations going in were like, I don't care if I get a dub in pools. I don't care if I get a dub in redemption. I just want to get a dub at a super major. And unfortunately for me, the new Zelda came out, and a lot of my Smash time was taken up by this new Zelda. But I do think that my mindset going in was like I had a clear plan. I was gonna stay wolf. Like I didn't matter the matchup for the most part. I was just going to stick it out and not have that bad habit that Matt likes to talk about when you're like your panic pocket, so to speak. I'm not pulling out Meta Knight, randomly like some nerds. But yeah, that was kind of my mindset going in. Let's go over pools. Your pool happened first. The way that they did this tournament was, we should talk about doubles though. Let's talk about doubles first. Totally forgot that we both played doubles.
Yeah.
So we played doubles, and the doubles there was a lot of players in doubles, like a metric ton of doubles players. Round one, we played against some local players here from Utah, and I don't know. How did you feel like the first set went?
I mean, it was really close. I think they played pretty well. They were both pretty decent players. I think they both ended up going 1-2 in bracket. They said later, and there's definitely some stuff that we need to work on personally in doubles. Like I think that neither of us were really aggressive enough at getting damage, and obviously we don't have any of the synergy combos down at all. And I know for me personally, I just need to work more on like awareness of what's going on, especially with my teammate.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Like, just kind of the real difference in that first match was that they had practiced doubles. Like, it was clear and obvious that it was players of similar skills where one of them had practiced the thing that they were doing and the other had not. Is kind of my takeaway from that first round.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I think that was even more highlighted in our second round, where I don't know how good those people were specifically, but they were very good at doubles and like made it apparent that they were practicing to the point where when you had no stocks left and it was just me versus them, they just like kept trying to run the same exact combo setup on me like 4 times in a row.
Yeah. And honestly, like the real interesting part of that one to me is in the first game we were able to create 1v1s on opposite sides of the stage for the most part, and in match 2 they very much were like, no, that's not how we're playing this game, and making it so that was not an option for us. Which, I think I'm not a doubles expert by any means, but it was an interesting dichotomy between the two sets.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just looking at it in the abstract, I imagine the downside to that is that it makes you very predictable at what you're trying to do, right? Like, for example, if you get the Palutena that I forget, it was Palutena and
Ganondorf
and the other Ganondorf. So if you get the Palutena off stage and she's just determined to get back to the teammate.
Oh wait, you're talking about round 2, not round 1.
Yeah, round 2. Yes.
Yeah, it was Palutena and was it Toon Link?
Yeah, Toon Link. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, if they're bound and determined to stick together, it's going to make their movement rather predictable where they're trying to get, right? Like otherwise, like if you're flowing with the way that the game is playing, you can't necessarily dictate exactly where you're going to be on stage. But if you're determined to do that, then you can read where they're going to be
right
a lot more easily.
Yeah, and that became apparent when, like, I was telling you, I don't know if I told you during the match or after, but that the Palutena was always on the inside of the stage, and the Toon Link was always on the outside of the stage. And it was an interesting dichotomy. And I think one of the things that they were fishing for was back throw for Toon Link, as
Mhm.
well as back air for Palutena, in to really set up the kills.
Right.
So
Yeah, well, I mean, the combo that they were working on me was, I think up throw into it was either up throw or down throw into down air. Might have been down throw from Palutena into Toon Link's down air.
yeah. Let's talk about pools. You right after our for what's worth. I just want to give a shout out to our opponents in doubles. Doubles was actually really fun. I think that every time we play doubles, I'm like, this is really fun. It's a lot to process, but it's interesting. It's a good time. Uh,
Yeah, I really enjoy doubles.
oh, and we got to watch some of the like the end of doubles. Just like really cool to see. The one of the highlights of doubles for me at this event was actually watching Shu. The way that she is able to like play ZSS and like get some of those upbees in doubles is kind of impressive to me.
Yeah, watching her, I learned a lot about how to play doubles with Zero Suit. Um, like I said, the most impressive thing to me, and I told you this at the time, but like she would often use like really soft hitting moves to like get her teammate out of combos, and I
Yeah,
thought that was really cool.
yeah. Uh, so let's go over your pools. You got reseeded at when they did the reseeds, and you were playing against a Roy Crom from Arizona. Uh, you knew that kind of going in. What was your mindset going into your first round?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that I was going to be first of all, I assumed that my opponent would go Roy because I think Roy is a lot better in that matchup. Uh, but and I also, after looking at my opponent's tournament history, that they'd had some like nothing major, but like I think they had like a 27th in like a 100-man tournament, and like they had second places at like locals like 20-man tournaments. But and maybe even a win here and there. So I assumed that my opponent was quite a bit better than me. But when I got into the match, I kind of set that all aside and kind of came out, guns blazing, and I, I ended up taking a huge lead after the first stock and a half or so. And like in my mind, I was like, "Oh wow, I can actually do this. I can win this match or this game at least." And I think that I kind of lost sight of the game for thinking more about the match result than what I was actually doing in the game. And this is kind of a recurring theme that I had over the weekend was like either I would get really far ahead or really far behind and kind of start thinking more about the result than the actual game itself. Um, but that being said, like I think that that player was quite good, and I took them to the last stock both of the games that we played, and I think that it was quite competitive. Like I think there was no doubt from either of us that they could have lost either of those games, and they ended up going on to top 64. So
Yeah, it was quite impressive considering that I think that that matchup is pretty bad for you, and like just kind of keeping your composure in the face of something that I mean, Smash is like obviously a game where you have to get comfortable with winning your bad matchups, right? Like it's not like it's not like you're gonna find a dual main that's going to actually have 100% coverage, right? So like you just have to be comfortable with playing in adversity in a lot of ways.
mhm.
And one of the things I really liked from your opponent in that match is their ability to adjust was pretty apparent after a while. Like they started using a lot more side B, and they stopped using up B in neutral as much, which was
Mhm.
interesting to me. But
Yeah, they clearly knew the matchup really well too. Like my opponent basically jumped from ledge every single time, which isn't like a default option against most people, but it is against Zero Suit. And so yeah, that was apparent that they had a lot of experience in the matchup. I think I also have a lot of experience in the matchup too, which is why I basically stayed Zero Suit. I was just comfortable with it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah.
and
And
then
then
round
after that,
two,
yeah, I went into losers and played against. Um, I do not remember their name. But they started out Little Mac, and it did not go very well for them. I ended up banning. Uh, FD and Town and City, and then they switched to NES. I don't remember what stage they picked, but that game also did not go very well for them. So yeah,
I think you guys were on PS2.
did we go back to PS2
I
for the
think
second game?
so.
Yeah, that could be true. Anyway, yeah, so I ended up getting that match relatively comfortably, I would say.
How
Um,
is the NES matchup supposed to play out? It looked really bad for
I have
NES.
no idea how it's supposed to play out, but I know that I beat really good Nesses online all the time. Like people that I'm like, wow, this person clearly understands how to play Ness and like knows
Yeah,
the combos and stuff. But
it looked kind of rough. Just like you're so fast that it almost makes their recovery bad.
yeah, and I think that the other problem is that the Zaire is so good against characters that are that floaty. Like
Yes.
it's really hard for Ness to get in.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
and also it's really hard for them to get back to stage. Like Zero Suit actually edge guards Ness really well. It's surprising how hard it is to up B or air dodge to stage for Ness in that matchup.
Yeah.
And I think Little Mac is obviously a pretty good matchup for Zero Suit for a lot of the same reasons, to be honest.
Sure. Uh,
And then yeah, round three. Round three. What did my opponent play? They were playing. Sorry, I had 2 days of tournament, so I'm trying to think back through. Oh, they were playing. Was that the Corn match?
yeah.
No, that
Oh
was in
no,
Redemption, right?
Was Corn in Redemption? I think you're right. Corn was in
Yeah.
Redemption.
I honestly can't remember what my opponent played in the third, who my opponent played in the third round, but I remember the games were also pretty close. It was definitely not a given that I was going to lose, and they were pretty good as well. Like definitely, anytime I was in disadvantage, they showed that they had a lot of it. Oh, it was a Sora. That's what it was.
Oh, I remember this now.
Yeah, they were very good at the confirms and like stringing things together in ways that I really hadn't seen very much. And also very good at using the thunder against Zero Suit specifically because, in my experience, it's very hard for Soras to actually put that in a spot where Zero Suit's going to get hit by it.
I remember this player being, and I asked you at the time, like, is this a Sora thing or a player specific thing about how well this player was at pushing their advantage? And
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of the combos they were doing were true combos. Like I do think Sora is quite good at that kind of stuff. But they were also just they were definitely good as far as their skill.
so you lost that one. Um,
Yeah, that player also ended up playing for well I think they ended up losing their win and in for the play in for top 64 to my first round opponent actually.
yeah.
So yeah, I will say that I think that I played mostly really competitive games. And I my opponents were quite good, and I was really happy to have gone that evenly with players that were certainly capable of top 64ing, and one of them in fact did top 64.
Yeah, I was really proud of you and the way that you played, especially on that in pools. For me, if you're listening to this, you might have actually already seen my first set. Was put on coverage versus Jank, Utah player that means Wolf, part of the Lanking Academy, and uh, it was something that I've already reviewed, and it was a pretty short set. There was a very clear, not only skill difference, but um, Jank's movement was really good and precise, and it was really hard to combat that with worse movement. One of the things that happened, I probably should have talked about this during Always Improving, but one of the things that has happened from going from Greninja back to Wolf is I full hop a lot because I like that's what Greninja does to to counteract the fact that he doesn't have a shield. So you're doing a lot of full hop fastball nairs or like a lot of full hop bears, or you're putting in macros to do a lot of your stuff. And for Wolf, that doesn't work as well because you actually like the fair combos don't actually work as well that way. You need them to be falling, not rising.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to do that stuff, and I was not.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that just that my biggest moment from that round is just like I need to practice movement, which is already kind of what I knew going into the tournament, but it was so funny to have it be confirmed on coverage like right away.
Yeah. Yeah, your first round opponent's movement was definitely very clean, and yeah, it showed definitely. Um,
Uh,
but on the bright side, like you did do some really good things in the match. I thought that you made some really good choices, and I think that it's nice to have such a clear thing to work on, right? Like,
oh yeah, it is such an easy fix, right?
mhm.
That it is so getting into the lab to just practice movement is that's something that you can just spend an hour a day on, right? Like it's
Yeah, I mean, imagine being in your opponent's spot, right, where you have this movement stuff down pretty well, and you're like, oh, how do I get better? Like, that's probably a lot harder
right. But he
of a
tweeted
task.
he tweeted just shouted to him by the way, like I think that he's pretty close to getting Utah PR and like we were in the crosshairs of Tweak and he made it to Tweak and like I'm sure that that's like a highlight for him and something that he will remember for a long time.
Yep,
Um, my round two opponent started on
Mega Man.
I want to say it was Mega Man.
Yeah, I think it was Mega Man.
I I can't remember if I two stocked or three stocked them on the Mega Man, but it was not a very close game one. Um, and they switched to Little Mac, and I pulled ahead a full stock or so in game two, and then had a pretty unfortunate air dodge SD that really got in my head. I talked about this on constructive criticism this week. It was actually my always improving moment of like I let it affect me really badly, where I really tried to overcome the SD rather than remembering what the matchup is about, which I think I played the first stock and a half of that game really well. And, going for that edge guard was part of that. And I don't know, I really let it get into my head. And unfortunately, I lost that game, and that mentality stayed in my head and lost game three. And I think that I was in fact better than my opponent, and my mental just collapsed. And um, it was actually a problem the whole weekend. We'll get into it during redemption, but like I really let that punt get into my psyche, and a lot less laser, a lot less, and a lot more like trying to force interactions with a character that I probably shouldn't be doing that against.
Yeah, I think actually that's kind of an interesting side effect of your opponent's lineup as well. Like, I think that going from Mega Man to Little Mac kind of is gonna create that situation a bit more than you'd expect because, like, with Mega Man, you actually do need to force engagements, right? Um,
That's true.
and Little Mac is kind of just the opposite.
Um, so next day we had redemption at 11. We brought the Crown Kid with us. Maxwell was was in the building, and yeah, redemption started really interesting for me. I actually started interesting for both of us. We both we both got the bye. We were both first seeds in our redemption
Yeah.
brackets. Um, I this actually goes into my bad mental for this weekend, where I saw that I got the round one bye into winners, and I was actually kind of upset. I was like, man, like now I have to play against people that are like winning matches to start the whole day, and like I really just wanted to get a win, and it really affected my psyche. In a pretty bad way. Like I watched my first round opponent. He was clearly better than me. He actually did on Twitter say compliment my wolf. He said, "I think you're actually giving yourself less credit than you deserve." Um, but apparently, the reason that he was dominating that wolf so much is they were best friends, and
Hmm.
he knew exactly what that wolf was going to be like. So I was doomed from the beginning, though. If his best friend is a wolf, so I played against a Joker that was quite good. Went on to, I think he top aided that bracket. His Joker was nice. I'm a little surprised from the O2 by him for Redemption, but he I started King K. Rool because I was trying to cheese him a little bit and kind of skill check him on the matchup. And it went okay, but it was apparent that that was not going to work, and so I wanted the Joker Wolf, experience. So I switched to Wolf, and my Wolf actually did better than the K. Rool did, and the matchup is interesting. I think that Joker Wolf is pretty even. The one of the problems though is that I think the counter, not Tetrakarn, but like the actual Joker counter that gives you Persona is actually really good in the matchup. I think it's both good against Wolf's recovery, but also good because Wolf's going to try to get in with different things. The biggest thing though is that guns are busted in the matchup, especially because they don't get reflected.
Yeah, I mean, gun is busted in every matchup. Let's be real, but there are some where it's more highlighted than others, definitely.
Yeah. So my round 2 of Redemption, I don't even remember what it was.
You played against Cloud.
Oh, I played against Cloud. That matchup, I thought I was going to get bodied, and I kept it pretty close. Actually, one of the things that ended up happening though is I once again had an SD that was pretty unfortunate, and I let it get in my head again. But I'm actually kind of proud of that match as far as like my ability to play against Cloud. This is actually the second time I played against Cloud that I kept it pretty close in a matchup that I think is like bottom 5 for a Wolf. So
yeah, that makes sense. That Cloud would be a pretty tough matchup for Wolf.
I mean that both Cloud's nair, up air, and back air are pretty insane against Wolf, and that's like the whole kit anyway. So
yeah, I mean, it just whenever you guys are both in neutral, like Cloud just has such a big range advantage, so it makes sense.
What about you? How did Redemption go for you?
So round 1 of Redemption, I played against a Pokemon trainer, and well, let me preface this. This was on a bad weekend for me too, because Diablo 4 had just come out. So I stayed up till like I don't know 3 or 4 a.m. playing Diablo. Fortunately, my game crashed. Otherwise, I probably would have stayed up later than that. I don't know. I was just not feeling it as much for Redemption, and I may honestly not choose to play in Redemption again if we do end up getting another, like if the next crown ends up being a major and we end up going again. Um. So yeah. Anyway, my mental wasn't the best. Like I was very tired going into it and really just didn't want to play that much. Uh. Anyway, I get in my first round against Pokemon Trainer, and it starts off really well. Like I think I actually 0 to death my opponent in the first stock, and then I like developed some substantial extra credit before even like getting hit. Still, um, and again that same problem where I just like I started thinking about the results of the match before the game was even over. Like in my mind, like this is like a pretty recurring problem for me. Like I'll start thinking about counter picks, like bans, etc., or like just visualizing the result of the match before the game's even over.
Do you remember the episode of constructive criticism we did with John Finkel?
Yeah, like one of the first like 10 episodes or
It was
whatever.
episode 13.
Sure.
But one of the questions that we asked him is like, "What are you thinking about?" And he said, "I don't know, like, what am I going to get for dinner? Like, does Indian sound good?" But
Yeah.
funnily enough, he was joking, but he actually did talk about, not thinking about results during your matches.
Hmm.
Um,
But I think it's one thing for Magic, but it's like even more important for Smash because if you get that distraction even for a second, things
yeah,
can
it's
just spiral so quickly.
six interactions have happened since you thought about
Yeah.
Indian food.
Yeah. But anyway, I ended up losing. Game 1 was still close, obviously, because I started out with such a commanding lead. But game 2, I just got put in the dumpster mostly. I just couldn't get in on Squirtle very well.
I actually thought his Squirtle was lit.
Yeah, I think that he was really good at spacing his moves. Like normally I am pretty good at outspacing Squirtle with Zero Suit, but like his timing was just very crisp. Like right before my move would come out, he would hit me with the furthest range of Squirtle's aerials.
Yeah. I thought
Um,
his fairs and his down airs were really good. I also think down air is one that I haven't used a lot against the SS because I find it really hard to use in that matchup, but his were like connecting.
sure. Yeah, I think the only thing his Pokemon trainer really lacked was like the combos. He didn't really have a huge combo game. Like he had the very basic Ivysaur combos to some extent, but
Round two though, you
yeah.
played
So
against this.
round two, I played against a snake. I won game one pretty handily. Uh, I ended up losing the second game, and then game three, I had a really commanding lead where I was like on the verge of three stocking my opponent. And I then again the same thoughts crept in my head. I'm like, okay, well this game's over. You know, at least I'll get a win today. And then like my opponent just brought it back so far that we ended up in a last hit situation, and I fortunately was able to out of shield his dash attack with an up B. And my opponent said that he was really counting on it crossing up there. But yeah, so I managed to pull that one out surprisingly. That snake player was quite good though. Like I was honestly just impressed by how good everybody was. For what you would expect for either a 1-2 bracket at X and 1, or O and 1, and or wherever I was in the tournament. I just thought my opponents were quite a bit better than I was expecting. Um, so yeah, I ended up winning that game or that match even, and then the next round I played against a Corrin, and I ended up. Did I win the first game in that set?
You did win the first game.
Okay, yeah, I won the first game in that set, and then game two, I got my opponent to like 170 without basically being hit, and then I went for an offstage fair edge guard, which maybe in hindsight might have just been not worth it to even go off stage at that point, but I just wanted to get the stock done with. And it seemed pretty risk free. And instead, when I ran off to do a fair, I accidentally got down air, and I was just very tilted from this because, like, I'd been getting a lot of misinputs the whole day, and probably, in no small amount due to my sleep
I
deprivation
was
and
just gonna
my
say it might have something to do with Diablo.
yeah, and also like I I don't know, and just not feeling it that much. Like I wasn't like as crisp with any of my stuff. Like I kept getting down airs when I was trying to fast fall airs and stuff like that. But anyway, the SD kind of like destroyed my mental there, kind of like yours did. And I don't know. It took me at least like a stock to even get back into the game where I was like, okay, well, I can just win this game still. It's fine. Like I didn't really. I'm still like in a reasonable spot to win this, even after like having taken 70 on the next stock just by uh, not appreciating the interactions like I should have. And then we ended up going basically last hit in that game, and I ended up losing it. And then game three, I just kind of got beat up. I was just,
Yeah,
I saw it all slipping away, and
I didn't get to watch game three, but I did. I will say that I could see your mental. I went upstairs to check on Maxwell, who was playing
mhm.
friendlies, but I could definitely see your mental slipping away in game two, and I was. I think that the backer that killed you. Well, they were. I mean, they had literally like 200 multiple times in game two. It felt like not actually, but it felt like it. And I think that Smash is such a this is kind of I want to move on to like the learning opportunities and things like that. But one of them that I learned from watching you is that Smash is such like an isolated microcosm of a game in every given moment where things change really quickly, and it's so hard to like you talked about like if you're thinking about something else for like half a second. I mean that not really half a second, but like even if it's for like 2 seconds, that's a lot of time in a Smash
Mhm.
game. You could lose your advantage really quickly that way.
But I think more than that, it's such a momentum based game that like even if it was only for a half a second, it caused you to lose one interaction. Like that really
Right.
snowballs into way more than you would expect.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk about the event really quick. We'll talk about kind of about the tournament at the end during our training talk segment. But what you think, man? Like, what cool things happened at the event? What did you think of the venue. With this the repeat venue. Uh, there's a
Yeah,
lot.
I had a really good time at the event. Uh, my only real complaint was that they did not have any shade at the feature match area.
Yeah,
Um,
I was a little surprised, but they had like tables for food and stuff at the last one where you could eat, and there was shade, and getting rid of that seemed a little weird to me.
yeah, yeah, it definitely seemed weird to me as well. Uh, that's my only real complaint. I really like the outdoor venue. I think that the pool there and the projector screen is really cool. Um, so I'm definitely a fan of that, and I just hope that in the future they maybe make a little more accommodations for weather. Like I know that it ended up raining out for like a half an hour or something. They couldn't do feature matches, but yeah. Other than that, I think that venue is great. I think that having the entire building across the street for all the pools, and like you have a whole floor for friendlies and a whole floor, like floors for different pool waves and things. It's really nice. Um,
Yeah, I got to go to see what DreamHack was like when I was at DreamHack, and for Magic, and it is so much better at Crown. Like they really pull out all the stops at Crown. Michael should be really proud of what he did, and I just want to give you a huge shout out. What this event is really special for me because Michael gifted my son an all amenities pass. For those who don't know, Max was a 6-year-old Bowser main, and my son told me that he had the best day of his life, and I was the best dad in the universe after that day. Um, and I just, Maxwell walking up to Karama and like talking to him was like, it was really cool because not only was it a highlight for Maxwell, but like Karama's like, this is hype as hell. Can I get a picture?
yeah.
And I don't know, like there's something special about like getting to do this with my son. We got we got there early so that I could get a cabana for us, which was probably the only thing that stopped you from getting like crisped.
No, yeah, for sure. I did everything I could to stay in that little tiny bit of shade that was produced by this thing.
But it was we were comfortable in a cabana. Got in the pool with Maxwell. Got to play. I got to play some friendlies afterwards. Played against a really strong Kazuya. Got to talk about like how to play the matchup both with Greninja and with Wolf and things like that. One thing I bet you would really enjoy, Matt, is there's a lot of money matches going on in that friendly room. That sounds hype.
Yeah, I that's definitely going forward. I definitely need to take more advantage of the friendlies thing. I just have like, the social anxiety or whatever. I don't want to like go up to people and be like, "Hey, let me get a game," because like it's never like anybody's just sitting there, without anything to do.
Yeah. You could just bring a cute 6-year-old with you. It's pretty easy to get
Yeah, I
them.
mean, he just had his TV the whole time. Like nobody was even trying to,
No, people were like, "I'm up next
yeah,
against
lining up to play
Maxwell."
him. Yeah, yeah.
But no, I thought the event was great. I'm probably gonna hit up that mods guy, the dude that was modding controllers to get a GameCube controller.
Mhm.
Um, and also I'll probably put a plate on my a plate swap on my Pro controller, just because like I want the notches anyway. But
Mhm.
um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, overall, I thought the tournament was great, and I agree that Michael should be very proud of the tournament that he ran there. So that's
Uh,
awesome. I
is there
mean,
anything that we haven't
the fact
highlighted?
the fact that we can get all these, we had MK Leo and Tweak and Zamba and
Light
Shuton and
and
T and
yeah.
Light and like yeah, it was amazing. So,
Anything chances to learn that you want to highlight that maybe we haven't highlighted yet?
like I said, I would just take more advantage of the friendlies for myself personally. And I would also suggest that for anybody else.
Yeah, I think that one of my biggest chances to learn. I don't know. I don't give you a shot. You like encouraged me to go back and watch. I was like, there's nothing I can learn from that set. Like I got dumpstered. I've watched it 3 times now,
I think that's a good idea. Like I
and
said, I was immediately jealous that you just get to watch the VOD.
watched it 3 times, and there's so much to work on, so much. Well, especially because it was Wolf Ditto, like getting to watch his Wolf. I watched it from my perspective. I watched it from his perspective. I've watched it like casually. I watched Larry be like, "This is really bad. This guy sucks. Let's go watch something
Did
else."
Larry do some commentary on it?
No, he didn't actually do commentary. He was like, "Oh," he like just immediately saw that I was getting dumpster. I was like, "Ah, is there something else on?" Uh,
Fair enough.
but yeah, it was a really cool event. Let's talk the tournament though before as we wrap up. We saw the return of Joker. We saw the Joker return. What is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, like I was telling you before, I every time that Leo pulls out the Joker, it just feels like immediately it feels like some kind of anime arc where like he's just like, super powered up now and he just throws out the cleanest Joker that anybody's ever seen. And like I don't think any like the way that he played Joker against Spargo in that first game, like I don't know that anybody could have beat that. Like that was like the movement, like I've never even seen anybody move that way. And
Yeah,
then, and then as has happened, in the last few times he's pulled out Joker, it really looks a lot less good in the next round when he plays Joker in. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there, but
yeah.
it was amazing to watch the I don't know if there's like spoilers are allowed at this point, but yeah, Tweet or Spargo went up 2-0 against Leo, and Leo's I think lost. They said that he's lost to Spargo the last 5 times they've played, and or sorry, Leo's lost to Spargo the last 5 times they played, and obviously he's been trying the Byleth and the Aegis in that matchup a lot, and just can't figure out how to beat this Cloud, and pulled out the Joker, and it just didn't look close. And
Yeah,
his Cloud got 2 stock twice.
Yeah, and it actually forced Spargo to switch to Aegis.
Yeah, yeah, and then honestly, I mean, they did get to last stock, but it didn't look that much closer for the Aegis, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. I mean, they were playing for top 8, and it was hype, dude. Like obviously you want both those players in top 8, but like that's a crazy match for top 8.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, the next one is kind of a sad one. It looked like Tweak was like destined to win this tournament for a hot second. Ends up losing to Zamba, and then pulls out the Mega Man against Onan. And what's so funny is like Tweak was like very confident that it was not ready, and did it not look ready?
Yeah.
What's I mean, I say that, but like Tweak's Mega Man would put me in the dumpster. Like I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you think of like Tweak picking up a character like Mega Man?
Yeah, I think it seems reasonable. Like, I mean, Mega Man has a lot of the. It feels like he really likes characters that have a lot of the, like the neutral B and side B movement options.
Yeah,
I would honestly really love to see Tweak play Snake at some point, and I think he said that he's thought about it before, but
I don't want to see
I
that.
think Snake is hype, but it's just me. Uh, yeah, I didn't get to catch much of his Mega Man, to be honest with you. I saw him playing it in doubles. It looked pretty good in doubles. But it's obviously a different dynamic when you're,
Dude,
playing
I will say
just a
his leaf
one-to-one
shield looked
match.
clean.
Yeah.
Like my opponent's leaf shield looked nothing like that.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine his movement is fairly clean. Like I've played against Mega Mans that have done like the nice leaf shield moves where they like, do like ledge slip off, turn around leaf shields and stuff, and it's always
Yeah.
pretty clean.
We had a huge breakout tournament for someone that I am going to watch probably their entire tournament that I can, and that's Jackal.
Oh, interesting. We went with Jackal first. I definitely thought we were going with Zomba, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jackal had a great run too. Like, I mean, he's the one that knocked Spargo into losers. Um,
Yeah, what do
and
you
what
think?
what an upset that was. That was like in top 32,
Yeah,
something like that.
I gotta ask, like, we've like almost entered a new era of Smash where all of these players with like lots of different character lineups that they've used are not, I wouldn't say I mean they're falling, but like they're still the best players in the world. But like, you see Zomba getting the win this weekend, spoiler for our next conversation. Jackal getting his best finish ever on the run of a lifetime. And we see this again and again where dedicated mains like Sky J, Apollo Kage, like all these players that are dedicated mains are actually really coming up.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you probably could have used better examples than that. Even like, let's look at Big D with Ice Climbers.
Big D is a great example.
Yeah, but it's definitely kind of becoming the era of the character specialists.
What do you think that means for someone like Tweak or Leo or Spargo?
Well, the thing is, like, I mean, Leo was a character specialist for like a long time, right? Like, you've like played Ike for a long time, and then eventually switched to Joker, and like, he didn't really have like secondaries when he was playing Joker all the time. Um, I think that uh for some of these characters, like, you just kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily need a secondary, but like, there are matchups that are so hard for
There,
Byleth
it's got. I
that
mean,
it's,
you can't play Byleth and not have a secondary, right? There's just no
yeah,
way.
yeah. That's kind of where I'm at on it. I think that with Rob, I don't think you need a secondary necessarily, right? I don't think that he really has a matchup that's worse than a -1 because he's just broken. So like, even if you're technically losing in the matchup, like, you just get a quick 0 to death. Like, I think Zero Suit beats Rob real handily in theory, but in practice, it just takes one good read, one good hit from Rob, and
Rob
all
has
things get
that
win.
cheese factor a little bit in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah. I would even with Rob, it's hard to even call it a cheese because it's so common. I would just call it the X factor.
That's fair. No, I like that. Let's talk
And
about.
then and Wolf is similar, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that Wolf needs a secondary because he's just like, he's just doesn't really have a matchup that's worse than a -1.
That's just not true. We watched it in the finals.
The Rob, yeah. I mean,
So,
I still don't think it's worse than
Slash
the
Daddy
-1,
tweeted.
but
Slash Daddy's a local Utah player to us. He tweets. He's like, he says, "This matchup is as bad as it looks right now." He's like, "This is nonsense."
yeah, it's certainly been considered by some to be. I think actually Jackal was the one that had the matchup chart that's had Rob as the worst matchup.
Yeah, I think he
Um,
was.
yeah, so it's definitely a bad matchup for Wolf. But that being said, like, again, I don't necessarily think that Wolf
I'm
needs a second.
obviously like a little bit overplaying it though, because the Zamba actually tweeted a picture of him beating reverse mains in the hotel yesterday
Sure, yeah.
with
I mean, and clearly
Jekyll.
these players are good. Yeah, I mean,
Let's talk about Zamba though, because like Zamba gets, I think it was his first major top 8 at Crown last year.
Zamba.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he'd had top
Okay.
eights before.
He had a big tournament at Crown last year. Comes back, wins the whole thing, gets his first super major win ever. And well, it's funny going into it is like you were like, I'd like to see Zamba win one. Like that's a dude that's been good enough for a long time. We got to see him go into the elevator. And what was so funny is like I had heard seconds before that Zamba just won. Zamba's walking. I was like, did you just win that after getting 3 stock? And he like has this shit eating grin on his face. Like he looks like I lit his world up. Like he's like, yeah, I did. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure that was a good moment for him. I mean, and what a run, honestly, from Zamba. Like, look at his bracket. He played against Sonics, into Leo, into Tweak,
yeah.
or was it? Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, so Zamba,
Or it might,
Sonics,
Onan
into
might have
Leo,
been
into
in there
Tweak.
somewhere, but
Yeah, I
or
I
was
think
Onan
those were them in.
was
I
Onan
think
the
it was
round
those
after?
in order, though. Yeah, I think it was those in order. Yeah.
Just a crazy tournament. And honestly, like
Yeah.
that picture of him wearing the crown with a sword on his back, like freaking frame that. That's sick. Also,
Yeah.
like a literal crown is a sick trophy. Like that's a cool trophy.
And he was just the clutch god all weekend too. Like, I think that he
Him
basically
and
went game
Jackal both
5
had like 5
in
reverse
every
3
set.
stocks.
Yeah, yeah. I think he went
For
down 0-2 in like most of his sets, and then just went reverse 3-0.
crazy.
Wild.
If people want to find you to talk about Smash, the probably best place to do that is the Heezy Game Media Discord. But where else could they find you?
Um, yeah, that's mostly it right now. Like, you could try to tweet at me at the Witch Cling, but like, I check my Twitter so rarely that it's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's so fair. You can find me at Spencer H. It's where I do my magic, my Twitter, my nerd culture tweets. Yeah, you can find the show at Smash Through Pod. it's been fun to do this podcast with Matt. I'm really glad that the way that we have it set up, where like we do it when we have something we really like to talk about, and like I think it makes the content a lot better. It was really fun to be at this tournament with you. You can check out the rest of Heezy and Media, whether it's the Constructive Criticism Network or the Neat Nerd podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe on this episode. It helps the show a ton. And if you are interested in sponsoring the show, we are a Top 10 Smash podcast. You know, hit us up at smash3pod@gmail.com. Once again, just want to give a major shout out to Land King, to Michael. But I want to give a really special shout out to the Utah community for the way that they embraced Maxwell and made his day. I might cry. I'm gonna cry for this. I don't know. A really special shout out to Karama for it. It's really easy to like, I don't know, like just say thanks and like walk away. But he actually like took like a full couple minutes to like talk to Maxwell, wanted a picture with him. Then he tweeted at Maxwell later. Like, I don't know. That's just it's it's so funny to have a guy like, I don't want to put anything into Maxwell's life, like he gets to do what he wants, but like having the guy that was the prodigy be your favorite player at 6 years old is pretty cool. So
yeah.
All right, that'll do it for this week, and don't forget to keep always improving and always try to smash through.